It's Octoberween, and we are continuing on with our spooky art. And this one's going to be a fun one for those who have a challenge with blending. Okay, this is going to be a fun, easy painting to do because it doesn't matter if you make mistakes, it will go with the art. And I like paintings like that because it's more forgiving, and we all know that watercolor is not forgiving at all. So let's jump right into it. Of course, I always give the options throughout the painting of things that you can change up. I mean, you can obviously do whatever you want, but uh, I love seeing people get creative and making it their own thing, and that includes everything from even just taping down the paper. I'm taping it down when paintings are a little bit more on the messy side. I like to tape them down and give them that clean edge, so it looks like it shows that the messiness was on purpose. This is going to be a wet on wet painting, so start with a very wet paper. The more wet it is, the better it will be. I am flying through this part of it because it's just me wetting the paper. The color I'm using for the background is a very, 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 very washed out sepia. So if you have something like a sepia, I added a touch of black to it, and it's going to give it that kind of creepy, foggy, dusty look to it. You could do a washed out gray if you want, a washed out black. I like the sepia, so I went with that. And you can do like maybe a washed out bluish gray to give it more of a foggy look. This still ends up with the fog aspect of it, creepiness. But because it has a little bit of that brown tint, I liked it. So anyways, we're doing layer upon layer upon layer of a really light wash. What is a light wash? Just really watered down paint. And basically it's like all water and a tiny drop of paint. So I like adding the layers, especially for this one, because it gives it a different element with each one. As you can see, there's kind of, different angles and stuff. And you don't want a perfect blend because this is going to help give it the depth, and it's going to help give it that fogginess and creepiness, and just let the paint kind of do its thing. You can see I think this is like layer 4 or 5, so just keep going, make sure the paper stays wet, and just keep going with it, and keep messing around until you get it to where you want. Do you have a rag or a paper towel or something? I like having I'm just trying to get a little lint thing off of there. I like having a rag because I feel like it doesn't leave behind lint, even though I was picking that up, that was from the brush. It doesn't leave behind lint, and I feel like it's just a little bit more effective, and I'm not going through a ton of paper towels. So I do use the rag quite a bit. So again, just layers darker on the edges, like a vignette, and just keep adding it until you get it to the point that you want. You might want yours a little bit darker, you might want yours a little bit lighter, and then here I'm taking that rag, and I'm just kind of opening up that center part to give it the darkness on the edge. And I'm not doing it too much because I do like those streaks in there. It keeps it with that foggy, creepy look. When you're in a cemetery, kind of, you see like the fog creep in. I mean, not a real, well, I guess real cemeteries can do that, but like in the movies, they have the creepy, foggy look. And the layers is really what is the trick to this painting. So start light. It might take a little patience. I think this whole painting, I know this one's just under 20 minutes, which I do try to keep my tutorials under 20 minutes. This one's under 20 minutes, and I think the whole painting probably took me about 30. So not much more. I didn't cut out too much. And here, this trick I'm doing is pressing the brush. The base of the brush has obviously less paint on it. So if you want to blend it, it helps blend it in the direction you're going, if that makes sense. I don't know if that makes sense. So the majority of the paint will end up on the top, and then it'll fade out naturally because of the way you're using the brush. Does that make sense? Hopefully. Sometimes I definitely don't think I'm making sense here. So I wanted to add a little bit more of that foggy element. I'm just kind of enhancing what the paper and the paint naturally did. By by your choice, of course. You can do this if you want. And then I wanted the bottom to be a little bit darker, and I'm going to keep doing this until I get it. I'm almost where I want it to be. This is like the least fun part, I guess. Maybe it's fun. I don't know. I guess painting is I don't know if fun is the right word to use. It's definitely therapeutic for me. But it is relaxing for sure. Fun? I don't know. So I'm almost there. I just added one more layer. This layer I think is what I got excited about. I'm like, oh, look at that. That definitely has a creepy aspect. And as you can tell, the edges are very messy, and that's why I wanted to tape it down. I'm adding a little bit more darkness to the sides, but the sky part I'm really happy with here. So just kind of finishing this up, fast forwarding it a bit. It can get a little tedious just watching this. And I like that it's kind of going in now. And then the bottom, you see where I added the black, it bled into the paper, and I loved that effect. I left it. Look how natural it looks. I mean, we try to duplicate that with our brush and we can't. So it's like great that it just did it naturally. I'm adding some tombstones. Add them wherever you want. I'm kind of adding it where I feel like it looks more natural to the paper. So just take a look at your artwork and see where do you think a tombstone's going to look, right? I mean, you can add different types of tombstones. You could do the stone like I'm doing, or maybe a statue. I did add a cross one to the left down the line. So look how natural that looks. Isn't that great? I mean, it looks like I actually painted in that bottom part, and I didn't. It was just bleeding into the paper. So I'm adding these tombstones into the foreground, and then I'm going to add some tombstones into the background, and it's going to look like it's faded into the fog, and it's a really, really easy trick to do, and definitely something to put in your back pocket of tricks with watercolor. And it's one of those things where watercolor is an advantage over other mediums because of the water. You could just add stuff in easily, and like the fogginess. For me, I feel like an acrylic or oil, that's a lot harder to achieve. But then again, oil and acrylic is a really difficult medium for me, so I think everything is harder to achieve. I'm adding in the cross at a little bit of an angle here. Just, I don't know if I'm going more for an angle or just kind of falling over a little bit, like it's an old cemetery. And I'm going to blend it a little bit more into the bottom, and then we'll get to see the foggy tombstones here in a second. So anyways, do you guys like Halloween? It's one of my favorites, probably my favorite holiday, I think. I like all the holidays. I'm definitely one of those people that likes to go all out for the holidays. I just think it's fun. It's something to do, especially if you're a creative person. It's a good outlet for your creativity. And I like the spooky stuff. I mean, if you don't know, I am also a writer, and mostly write in the horror genre, horror and mystery. So this is definitely in my wheelhouse of passions. So I'm going to add these tombstones in the background, watered down. I watered it down quite a bit, but then I'm going to lift it with my rag again because I want it to be even more faded. So definitely keep it really watered down because it'll make lifting it a little better. I'm okay with it sitting for a few seconds because the longer it sits, the more the paper is going to absorb the color. So I don't want to lift it completely. I just want to lift it enough where it looks like it's in a misty fog. So voila. There you go. I'm going to add a little bit of color to the bottom in there in a second just to make it look like it's faded in there. So now I am adding, I think I'm adding another tombstone here. Yeah, one more tombstone. Then we're going to add some apparitions. So these apparitions, same concept with the tombstones. I'm doing it very watered down, and I'm going to lift it too. And here's the little ticket to this painting. The more faded it is into the background, where people kind of have to peer in to see, I think the better the effect. Because then you're like, oh wow, is that an apparition? And it just I feel adds to the creepy element. So this is not one of those cutesy Halloween paintings. It's supposed to be on the creepy side. As far as the apparition goes, you definitely don't have to be really good at drawing people or bodies, because I mean, if you've watched enough of these ghost shows, apparitions are usually just barely can tell what they are. They're faded into, you know, the background. Most of the time you can't even see their legs, you know. So that's kind of what I'm going for here. You're like, wait, I see the body floating through the cemetery. So that's the effect I'm going for. And you want it to almost be like a double take. Like, wait, is that an apparition? Is that a tombstone? That's what I was going for. So have you guys ever had any kind of experience? Have you lived in a haunted house? Have you had any ghost experiences? I'm not a big believer. I'm not even sure I can call myself a believer. I've done a lot of ghost hunting. It's something I do for fun. Really weird hobby, right? I've done hundreds of ghost hunts in so many different places. And so I haven't really had any real experiences. Ironically, the most real experience I've had was when I was doing an open house, and I'm a realtor. That's a job that pays so far. Hopefully my art will get there one day, but for the meantime, it's real estate. So I'm gonna have to just hold that story probably for my next video. I promise I'll do that in my next video, because it is a little bit longer than this video. It's worth it. I promise you. Everybody loves this story. And even those who are not believers love this story, because there's a very real aspect to it. So if you guys are my friends and you're watching this, and you probably know which story I'm talking about, it's the only one I have, but it's very much worth it. Back to my painting. So we're putting a tree in the middle. So when I started painting this tree, you know, I did the brush all the way down, and I accidentally ended up with this ragged top to the tree, and I liked it. So I kept it. What does Bob Ross say? Happy little accidents. So I kept it and went with it. And I think it worked out really well. I was really excited with this accident. So I just went with it. And now I'm adding some more skeletal branches, a couple little leaves just hanging on for dear life there. When I was painting this, I'm like, oh, this is kind of looking windswept. But then I'm like, well, if it's a skeletal tree, would it really be windswept? So I didn't really stick with that theme, but I did like the look it was getting. And I'm just kind of looking at the tree, trying to see where branches make sense. I put it in the middle because I wanted it to be the centerpiece of the painting. You could put it to the side. You could put multiple trees in there. Make it your own. Do whatever you want. So I'm just adding a couple more skeletal branches. I'm going to throw an owl in there. What's Halloween without an owl? I didn't want to put a moon in. I didn't want to make it too cutesy. I know moon, you're like, moon cutesy, but I just didn't want to go too, you know, make it too obvious of a Halloween painting. So a couple of branches here. This poor tree, it's definitely going to fall over soon. I love it. I love it. I loved this painting just because it's so creepy. So let me know, what are you guys doing? Are you going to put one tree, multiple trees? You could put bats hanging upside down, maybe no owls. I'm curious what you come up with. But do you see now, like with the background, like it just created these natural, just natural elements. Like you're like, is that fog? Is that a mountain? Which is kind of what happens when you look through fog. You can't really tell what's happening, right? So I'm going to add one more leaf, and then I'm going to add my owl here in a second. Really easy, just a silhouette. We adopted a new dog, and we don't know how old she is. She's a rescue. She's a mama, and we're thinking she's between 1 and 2. The adoption place at 3, but I say that for every dog. We think she's closer to like 1 or 2, and she had puppies. She definitely still acts like a puppy, so we're thinking she's on the younger side, but she keeps running up to me because she wants me to hold her. She's needing a lot of comfort in her new home. But it's cute because now she loves sitting behind me when I'm painting. It's not uncomfortable because I kind of lean forward anyways, and so I always have that space behind me. So she just kind of tucks herself in there. She's 7 pounds. She's tiny. So she just tucks herself in there. So she's my new painting buddy. I'm petting her right now because I can't really kneel down and pick her up, but she's content. Anyways, I'll pop her picture up here right now. Anyways, this is my little owl. It's a great horned owl. The great horned owls have those like ear things. I don't know if I guess they're really ears on top of their head. We have a lot here, and we have a lot of great horned owls. They kind of, I mean, I have a 7-pound dog. I have 3 now, 3, 7, they're about 7 to 8 pounds. So, you know, living in Arizona, it's a little nerve-wracking when we take the dogs out, but we also love the wild animals. I'm adding a bat. So I add 3 bats, but 1 bat kept disappearing on me. Don't ask me. I was doing that, you know, adding the watered down bat. I want it to look like it's faded into the fog, and then I would take the rag and dab it like I was with my other things. But the 1 bat kept disappearing. It didn't want to be in my painting. So I don't know what happened to it. I went back and added it at the end of the painting, and he still kept disappearing. So I think in the end I tried painting 4 bats and ended up with 2. But hey, maybe my painting is haunted. You never know. But if you do have a haunted story, leave it in the comments. I love reading about haunted stories, anything like that. Any creepy story, I like doing. We have a request for one specific painting, which is, I guess, a witch's hat. We're going to do that next. If you requested it, it will be next. And then we'll probably end the month with some sort of urban legend art. I have one in mind, but if you guys have one you want to do, then leave it in the comments. But I do have one in mind to do for the end of the month, and it's going to be super creepy. Black-eyed children. If you guys haven't heard about that urban legend, it's a good one, look it up. But we will do a black-eyed children painting, and of course I always try to keep them in the beginning level to intermediate level. And I know some people asked me to do some more advanced stuff. This is the bat that disappears, by the way. So maybe we'll figure it out while we're watching this, what happens to it. But I do try to keep it in the beginning to intermediate. Some people have asked for some of the advanced stuff, but I don't know. Let me know. Do you want me to do some more of the advanced stuff, which tends to be more of the pet portraits? I feel like those are a little bit more advanced. Maybe a home portrait. I have to do one. I don't have any home portraits that have been ordered, and I'm backed up on orders. So if I do one, it's going to be one of my orders. So maybe a pet portrait. I have a German Shepherd I need to paint, and then I have a couple horses to paint. So we'll see. Dogs are harder than horses because of their fur, at least for me. And so we'll see. Maybe. I'm definitely focusing on the Halloween stuff this month. So I wasn't even paying attention in the bat. I have no idea what happened to it. So this bat is definitely giving me a hard time because I completely forgot to watch that. So I'm removing the tape. As you guys can see what I'm talking about with the clean edge. I really feel like it just gave it that nice contrast to the piece. Let me know what any changes you made to your painting, or if you have any haunted stories to share, please share in the comments. I do read all of them. At least now I do. Hopefully I get to the point where I can't because there's so many comments, but right now I'm reading all the comments. And so here it is. This is the final piece. Let me know what you think. Let me know how this was for you guys. Sometimes I don't know what you guys find hard or easy or difficult or need help with. So let me know, because I want to help any way I can for you guys to overcome any challenges, as long as it's not my own challenge. I don't know how to overcome it because I'm trying to figure it out on my own. So this is the final piece. I'm not sure what I'm going to do with it. Maybe I'll give it away. I don't know. I don't think anybody's going to want to buy this, but we'll see. Maybe I'll give it to somebody who likes the horror and the creepy stuff. But don't forget to sign your paintings when you're done with it. I just did that. Bottom right corner. And anyways, happy Octoberween. Hope you enjoyed this painting.